What do you want to see from the Raiders, the final 5 games of the season? I'll tell you what I want to see from the Silver and Black, plus a whole lot more coming up on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, December 1st, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. Of course, as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate you, and we appreciate my man Ari. He does a great job each and every day, making sure we're looking good, we're sounding good, we're doing what we're supposed to do up on YouTube. Check Ari out on Twitter at Ari Produces. Matter of fact, give him a follow on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Those calls and texts will come up in segment number 3 of today's show. Segment number 2, you'll hear from Raiders defensive line coach Rob Leonard. Many of the assistant coaches met with the media earlier this week, and I had a lot of the sound. I didn't get to attend, but I got a lot of the sound from Vinny Bonsignore, so I wanted to bring it to the table. So defensive line coach Rob Leonard, you'll hear from coming up in segment number 2 of the show. Here in segment number 1, we'll talk about what I want to see when the Raiders come out of their bye week, start preparing for the Minnesota Vikings, and play out the rest of the season, the final 5 games. Of course, we want to see winning, but there's more than just that as far as I'm concerned. We'll get to that coming up here in segment number 1 after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And if you're looking at the calendar right now, you see it's December 1st. It's been exactly 1 month since Coach Antonio Pierce has taken over as the head coach on an interim basis. The same with Champ Kelly as the interim GM and Bo Hardigree as the interim offensive coordinator. So there was a lot going on November 1st, so I didn't get you with the traditional wake up, wake up, wake up, it's the first of the month, wake up, wake up, wake up, it's the first of the month. So luckily, I got hit up on Twitter on Thursday. I was like, hey, Q, I know there was a lot going on November 1st, so I don't blame you, but you got to hit me with the Hood Classic, man. First of the month, Bone Thugs and Harmony. So there it is, Raider Nation. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month. Depending on when you're listening to this show, it might be later in the afternoon. And if you're just now waking up, there could be a problem. But I always want to celebrate the Hood holiday. Hell, there's only 12 of them, right? There's only 12. And so if it falls through a Monday through Friday, it's only right that I hit you with it, at least a couple bars of it. So there you go. Thanks for the reminder. Definitely appreciate that. But let's go ahead and jump into segment number 1, what I want to see the final 5 games. And I talked about this on my radio show on Thursday. And the reason I did is because I've been thinking about all week long during the bye week, just kind of thinking about different subjects, different topics, something not so serious. Because you know when push comes to shove, when it starts to prepare for a game, then we really start to get focus in on, okay, how is this team going to win? What do they need to do? What do they need to do better? All that good stuff. So we have plenty of time to do that. During the bye week, I like to be a little bit looser. So that's what I was thinking about this subject. And it made me remember back to 2022. And I don't know what week it was, and I apologize for that. But there was a certain part of the season where I looked at the numbers and I said, you know what? Josh Jacobs is balling. Josh Jacobs is running his backside off. It might have been after the big performance he had against Seattle where he went for 3 bills when he had the walk-off touchdown. Matter of fact, it probably was right after that game. Maybe it was the podcast after that game. I looked at the numbers and said, I think Josh Jacobs has an opportunity to win the rushing title of 2022. Nick Chubb was going. Saquon Barkley was balling. Derrick Henry is always a threat, right? And I remember keep saying, I don't know what this season's going to look like. Obviously, they haven't won enough games. They're not winning enough games. But, man, it sure would be nice. The guy's on a free agent deal after this season. He's in the final year of his contract. It sure would be a nice cherry on top for Josh Jacobs to go win the rushing title, where he did. So it just kind of made me think of that when I was thinking about this topic on Thursday as I talked about it on Raider Nation Radio 920. So I thought to myself, all right, Q, what do you want to see the Raiders do the final 5 games? As individuals, like an individual player, I could talk about that, or even as a team aspect. So I said, why don't I do one of both? And it's going to focus in on the defense. The offense, it just blows my mind. The offense, I have been so confused about the offense, and I've been wrong about the offense all season long. it has not been the threat that I thought it was going to be for the team this year. It has not been the leader in the clubhouse. It has not been the unit that can hang with any team in the league. And still, it's a $100 million question. Why? I don't know. So I'm going to focus in on the defense, which has been a very nice surprise and addition to this Raiders team, right? All I kept thinking about leading into the season is as long as the defense can complement the offense, the Raiders will be in good position. Well, not only are they complementing the offense, they're leading the charge. They are the reason why, as far as I'm concerned, that the Raiders have won the games that they've won. So what I'm looking for to the last 5 games, of course, wins. There's no doubt about it. I'd love to see them go 5-0. I would be shocked to see them go 5-0. Now, in 2021, when they found their way into the playoffs, they ran the table like they were supposed to do, and I didn't think they would. I told anyone who would listen, there's no way that they're going to do that. No way, because they haven't proven it yet. Well, this year they haven't proven that either, right? But I still don't feel like that they really have an opportunity to do that. I mean, we know the games that they have. They got the Vikings coming up. They got the Chargers coming up. They got the Chiefs coming up. They got the Colts coming up in Denver. Now, all those games are winnable, but all those teams are looking at the Raiders like, yeah, we can beat that team too. So that's how they're looking, right? The Vikings are like, yeah, that's a winnable game going to Vegas playing the Raiders. Chargers like, yeah, we could beat the Raiders in Vegas. The Colts are like, yeah, the Raiders can come to the house and we could beat them. And the Broncos are like, yeah, we're on a 5-game winning streak. We could definitely beat those guys. And the Chiefs, we know they know that they could beat the Raiders. So, and that's on the road on Christmas morning. So it's not a good shot that they're going to go 5-0. But crazier things have happened, right? The Raiders find ways to do things sometimes that shock everybody. So we'll see. But with that being said, what I want to see, a little side note, kind of like the game inside the game, and this is, I have fun with these kind of things. I want to see 2 things defensively. I want to see Mad Max Crosby lead the league in sacks. And you're probably thinking like, okay, Q, he's not going to do that. That's crazy. Actually, it's not. He's not that far off. The leader in the clubhouse right now, number 1 in the league with sacks, is Danielle Hunter of the Minnesota Vikings, a guy that I was hoping the Raiders would make a move for by the trade deadline. He's at 13.5 sacks. 13.5. He's number 1. TJ Watt is tied with him in Pittsburgh, 13.5. Khalil Mack is really his third. He's got 13 sacks, and 6 of them he got against the Raiders alone, right? That week 3 action when Aiden O'Connell got his first start. Myles Garrett in Cleveland, he's tied with Khalil Mack at 13. In the number 5 hole, Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars is there with 12, and right behind him is Max Crosby with 11.5. Micah Parsons is tied with Max with 11.5 as well. So I want to see Max lead the league in sacks. I think he can do it. And I think that would be a nice goal. Now, I'll say this. We all saw his knee. We all know how injured he was. If it's going to compromise his health, then never mind. But if he is able to sit out this week and, this bye week and get rested and get right, and then he can go out there and ball and have no problems and doesn't feel like that's going to set him back and that's going to, jeopardize the long-term future, then go for it. Right, I think that would be awesome. And I think that that's obtainable. And remember this, Max Crosby's career high is 12.5 sacks that he had in 2022. He's at 11.5 right now. At the very least, he's going to surpass that. He'll have a career high in sacks this year as long as he's able to play, and I'm sure that he will. So that's what I want to see as an individual. Just like I wanted to see Josh Jacobs go and get the rushing title a year ago, and I talked about it quite a bit here on the show. I want to see Max Crosby lead the league in sacks. Again, Danielle Hunter's at number 1 at 13.5. Max Crosby's at number 6 with 11.5. And the other thing that I want to see, the other stat, the other little game inside the game that I want to see has to do with the Raiders defense in general. And if you remember, the goal that I set before the season, I said I was going to put a poster board up in the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio at the radio station, Raider Nation Radio 920, when I do my show. And I was going to put down every time the Raiders got a sack and every time they got a turnover, interception, I was going to mark it down. Well, my goal was 40 sacks and 20 interceptions. That was something I got the 20 interceptions from Eric Allen, who said that his defensive coordinator with the Raiders, Willie Shaw, used to put that on the board and say, all right, guys, this is where our goal, 20 interceptions, who's going to go get it? And everyone went out there and competed. And I thought that that's what Patrick Graham should do. I asked him about it multiple times. He said he doesn't have a certain target number. I asked Max Crosby. There's no target number. That's cool. But obviously they have goals. And 40 sacks and 20 interceptions, I don't think is unreasonable. I think it's something to definitely shoot for. And if you get somewhere near there, you're going to win a lot of games. Currently, the Raiders are at 28 sacks and 10 interceptions. Now, they're not going to get 20 interceptions. If they do, then their defense just went crazy. I don't expect that at all. But I do expect them to get, maybe around 13 or 14. That'd be cool. I'm good with that, especially since they only had 6 a year ago. And by the way, the year before that, they only had 6. So they're already doing better than they have in the past few years. So I'm glad to see that, but I'd like to see them finish that off strong. And again, the defense is playing well, so it's something that you should expect. And then the sacks are 28. They're 12 away from that 40. In 5 games, they could do that. I think they can get 12 sacks in 5 games. Why not? Right? We saw Khalil Mack get 6 sacks in 1 game. We've seen the Raiders get 5 sacks in a game. I mean, sacks come in bunches, just like interceptions and turnovers do. I think the Raiders have done a really good job focusing in on that. That's been a focal point. You know, it's something that they are not very good at as far as getting interceptions, but they've been able to do that this year. So that's what I'm focusing on. Obviously, like I said, I want to see the Raiders win games. I want to see Aiden O'Connell continue to improve. I want to see AP look more comfortable as the head coach, Bo Hardegree as the offensive coordinator. But the game inside of the game, right? Again, not taking myself too seriously on this Friday, just having a little bit of fun heading into the weekend as it is the bye week for the Silver and Black. So that's what I want to see, the final 5 games. Max Crosby lead the league in sacks when it's all said and done, and the Raiders get as close to 40 sacks and 20 interceptions as possible. They're currently at 28 sacks and 10 interceptions with 5 games to go. Coming up in segment number 2, you'll hear from Raiders defensive line coach Rob Leonard. He met with the media earlier, talking all things Max Crosby, talking about Tyree Wilson, talking about Byron Young, Nesta J. Silvera, and more. You'll hear that coming up in segment number 2 after I tell you about FanDuel. And as the weather gets colder, the NFL offer stays hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, good. You should. There's no better time to get on the action than right now. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get into the NFL season the right way with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to let you hear from Raiders defensive line coach Rob Leonard. What happened this week, since it's the bye week, we had an opportunity to catch up with Coach Antonio Pierce on Monday just to talk about the Chiefs game, you know, the wrap-up of Week 12. They just let us meet with them on Monday, and that was it. And then all of a sudden they made the assistant coaches available on Tuesday, and then that was officially it. Done deal records after that. It's been quiet all week long. We'll get back to it, obviously, on Monday. We'll hear from Coach Pierce. Then on Wednesday, we'll hear from him. And then again on Friday. And obviously, they'll be preparing for Week 14 action, facing the Minnesota Vikings at Allegiant Stadium. But we got to talk to the assistant coaches earlier in the year. It's really good. It's a big kind of a group setting thing where multiple coaches are in multiple parts of the room, and you just walk around and you talk to them and you ask them a few questions here and there. They're usually made available for about 15 minutes each. And again, it's a big group setting, so you got to use your time wisely. So I wasn't available to be there. It was during the time when I was actually on the radio and doing my radio show on Necessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio 920. So the guys that I have sound from, you're only going to hear from Raiders defensive line coach Rob Leonard. But the guys that I have sound from, thanks to Vinny Bonsignore, he sent it over to me so I could play it on the radio or the podcast. Defensive backs coach Chris Ash, tight ends coach Jerry Slupinski, pass game coordinator Scott Turner, running back coach Kennedy Palomalo, and defensive line coach Rob Leonard. So those 5 assistant coaches I have sound from. I thought Rob Leonard was really good. He was hired after Frank Ocam was fired last season. He was talking with the media earlier this week about Tyree Wilson, Max Crosby, Nesta J. Silvera, Byron Young, and a whole lot more. I thought this was some really good stuff with a guy that's very well respected around the NFL. That's defensive line coach Rob Leonard.
Tyree Wilson. Yeah. I know anytime you get the 7th pick overall, first-round pick, there's going to be a lot of attention paid to you.
Of course.
But there's still a process as well.
Of course.
Of development. What have you seen, for Tyree in terms of that development?
Hard work. I think he's become his hardest critic and been able to look at himself and give an honest evaluation. Development, I think he was, to be honest with you, humbled a little bit early and really responded in the right way, controlling what he can, stuff like that.
In what ways would you say that he was humble?
Everybody has expectations going in this league and how they envision themselves, and then reality can be a little bit different in this league, making the jump from college. And I've worked with Jalen Phillips in Miami, Adafe Owe at Baltimore, other first-round picks, and it's sometimes tell these guys, I said, it's not your fault. Like you guys are they're recruited at such a young age. They walk on the field, they look a certain way. They just run by different players because they can. And when you get to the NFL, it's the best versus the best. It's your technique versus his technique. There's a process to that. How to deal with grown men and being blocked in this league. And he's been awesome in terms of his attitude and not focusing on the results, which everybody wants to see, but just staying at it. And he's been great.
Another rookie that we haven't gotten a chance to see too much of is Byron Young, defense tackle you guys drafted. What have you guys seen from him kind of behind the scenes in terms of how he's coming on?
Same thing. Byron's a pretty sound player. I know he wants his shot to play. I know he wants to play more. I think Byron's the best thing for Byron right this year that he's benefited from is watching Jank, watching Adam Butler, watching the way they go about their business every day. And not that he's far off at all, but this league's all about the details and getting to watch them. And those two have played at a high level, and it's a competitive deal. Byron's time will come. I told him this morning, I said, he's going to be a great player in this league. His opportunity is going to come.
Sometimes people look at it as a negative that he's maybe not dressing out, but I mean, there's a reason for that. There's players that are playing better that might that are in front of him, and he is on a development track. Is that a reminder that you have to give him and maybe some others that this isn't a bad thing that's happening right now?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't rush the process. It's a game. You just heard Ash talk about it. You're looking for consistency, right? And I'm like, well, I did it right here. Well, it's like batting percentage. Well, Jank does it at a pretty high level. He doesn't miss a back block ever. He plays a double team right pretty much at a high level. So you look at other guys and maybe you're 1 for 5 or what, I don't know what the percentage is with Byron, but that's kind of what you're looking at as a coach. I know he's going to do his job and at a pretty high level. And I think they are pushing him to be even better.
I'm sure you had a perception of Max Crosby just from watching him before you got here, but what stood out the most about him now that you had the opportunity to work with him on a day-to-day basis?
How long does he have?
To be honest with you, man, I'm kind of speechless after this week of what I witnessed that man go through. He's special. He's special, and what he does for our room, for the football team, it means so much to him beyond my wildest imagination. And the guy's, to use his quote, I don't know if he cares if I use that. He's like, I'll die before I don't play in this game, And he's a special person.
Nessa Jade Silvera, another young player that's on the development track. What have you seen from him in terms of his development?
Nessa's same thing. I think Nesta has definitely some explosive, twitchy, good traits. Goes back to the consistency theme. Kind of also being able to play multiple roles. He does certain things really, really well, and then other spots from 0 nose to shade to 2-eye to 3 technique, and learning all the spots and the different blocks he has, as well as working on his pass rush. But he's working hard. He flashes every day in practice, but kind of finding his home of where he fits best to get up to the 53. But he has infectious energy. Love that kid. He's great for our room. He's been great.
A couple of the players in the locker room on defense said that Graham challenged him a couple of weeks ago to go from being a good defense to a great defense. In your opinion, as a defensive line coach, what are some things that your unit can do to kind of push forward to going from good to great?
Just dominate, play in and play out. Run and pass game. Everybody knows what that looks like. So I think there's times you go the first 2 series yesterday. We're out there playing at a pretty high level. First play of the game, we get the screen play, 15-yard loss, getting behind the sticks, and we're rolling. So keep executing like that. Like I said, just consistency. I'm trying to avoid saying the same thing over and over, you know what I mean? But that's what dominant defenses do.
So there you go. Again, I thought that was some really good stuff. Thought it was well worth bringing to the table. Love what he said about Max Crosby, and it's almost like he's in disbelief of what he sees from Max Crosby. And that's good. That's infectious, right? And what I mean by that is if the players in that locker room see a guy like Max Crosby didn't practice all week long, was doubtful to go play on Sunday, had to go to the hospital, right? Had bacteria in his knee. I mean, he was going through some stuff, some real stuff. I say that lightly, but I mean, he was going through some things and still found a way to get out there and not only just get out there, but produce. Picked up a sack against Patrick Mahomes, right? So he picked up his 11 and a half sack on Sunday against the Chiefs, picked up 1 sack, and that was the only sack that the Raiders had. But he was out there participating, getting after it. It's not like he was just going through the motions. That should make the guys in the locker room, if they're bought in, go out there and ball out, which is what made, a guy like Marcus Peters half-assing it, I should say, that made it even more disrespectful because Max is doing everything he could to get on the field, and Marcus Peters is just like, yeah, hold on, whatever, I'm collecting my check. And then obviously Roderick Teamer with what he was doing selfishly the night before where he ended up arrested for the suspicion of DUI, again, going back to Max Crosby. So guys like that should look in the mirror and say, hey, if that dude who is the face of this franchise is willing to bust his tail when he could have easily said, hey, coach, I can't go. My knee's jacked up, and the coach would have said, okay, no problem, sit it on down. There would have been no one questioning Max Crosby if he didn't want to go. But he is so obsessed with it that he wants to be out there at all times. That should be infectious to the rest of the locker room. It's funny, I had Vinny Bonsignore on my radio show on Thursday, and he mentioned Tyree Wilson and saying that, this year almost felt like a redshirt year. And he said, man, what Tyree Wilson should do if he really wants it like that, he should get with Max Crosby this offseason and just get with Max Crosby. Stay in his hip pocket. Like when Max says he's going to get to the facility, Tyree Wilson show up to the facility at the same time. When Max leaves the facility, Tyree Wilson leave the facility. Like if you want to take your game to the next level after basically having a redshirt year as a rookie, get in Max's hip pocket. Stay in there, pick his brain, learn as much as possible, similar to what Max Crosby did with Unique Ngakoue when Unique was with the Raiders for the 1 year. And that's the year that I noticed Max really take off. Obviously, that was the year he got sober, but he credits Unique Ngakoue with so much, really helping teach him and learn him what he needed to learn. And so that's what Tyree needs to do. He needs to lean on Max as well and then come back next year. Of course, he's got this year to still finish out. I'd like to see him finish pretty strong, pick up a couple sacks here and there. That'd be great. Just show what he could be. But, man, this guy's a big dude with a foot problem, right? That was what the issue was. He had foot surgery. So in the offseason, just go full bore and get after it and get with Max Crosby and just learn a little bit of the tricks of the trade. But that's what I got from you for Raiders defensive line coach Rob Leonard. Hopefully you enjoyed that like I enjoyed it as well. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, do want to tell you about Gametime. What is Gametime? Well, Gametime is what you need when you need to get tickets quick, fast, and hurry, last minute. Sporting events, music, comedy, theater, whatever the case may be, they will take care of you. They've got last-minute deals on all-in prices, views from your seat, their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. If you need tickets, do not stress. Do not worry about having to get them super early. Gametime's going to take all that out of the equation. They've got last-minute tickets. They got flash deals. They got zone deals. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find all your last-minute seats. Right now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. It's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a text today. We'll get the text from the judge. He says, hey, Q, the judge here. Not that judge. He says, just wanted to say I appreciate the show, been listening for years. I want to talk about Tyree Wilson and what appears to be either lack of effort or maybe just weakness on his part. He was blocked by tight ends, one-on-one many times against the Chiefs, and really looked like he didn't mind getting pushed around. Doesn't appear to have much fight in him. Very disappointed so far. I know he needs to learn, but it's time to show up a little bit here and there. That's from the judge. And thanks so much for the text. I appreciate you. And you heard Rob Leonard in segment number 2 where he's talking about Tyree Wilson and saying he loves his attitude, loves the fact that he's been humbled and he's ready to work. And that's something that I've heard multiple times. That's something, one, kind of disturbing that he had to be humbled. But second, it's good to hear that he was humbled. Antonio Pierce mentioned that early on when he took over as the interim head coach. We had asked him about Tyree Wilson. I don't remember exactly who it was. It might have been Vic Tafer. And he said, well, he's been humbled, and he's very coachable. So I'm assuming that he went into that Raiders locker room as a hotshot rookie and thought he was a hotshot rookie, and then had a welcome to the NFL moment like, yeah, that's not how it flies. You're not in Lubbock, Texas anymore. You're not in the Big 12 anymore. You're in the NFL. So that's kind of concerning because that's not the impression I got from him when I talked to him multiple times, and that's sure not the impression I got from him when I talked to his head coach in college, Joey McGuire, a guy that I know very well. So that was kind of disturbing, and he has been disappointed so far. I'll be the first to admit it. He's looked slow. He's looked confused. He hasn't looked like a dominating force out there, but I do know that he's still on a learning curve. And what I mean is because he really had basically no training camp. The fact that he's a big dude with a foot injury and he's coming back from it, right? It's a hell of a gamble. I think he's a really good player. I expect him to be a really good player, but he's got to put in the work. And that's exactly why I was saying, and that's why Vinny brought up on my radio show, he needs to get in Max's back pocket and just learn. If he's hungry like that, if he's built like that, that's what he'll do. If he's not, then he won't. And then we'll see what happens. But when you have that kind of leadership in front of you, you have that kind of dog in front of you, why not take advantage of that, right? Max Crosby is an open book. Go read him, right? It's like having an open book test, and you don't take your book with you. Oh, I got this. I don't need the book. No, it's an open book test. That's what it's designed for. You take the book. You use the book. He's got to use Max Crosby as that open book and go ahead and do that. I'm hoping that's what he does. If not, it could end up being another potential bad first-round pick, and that's very disappointing, knowing all the talent that was there at number 7 when the Raiders drafted. Up next, we got a call from Raider Izzy. He's calling to talk about Antonio Pierce, what he likes and what he doesn't like. And it's very similar to what Raiders had with John Gruden and Josh McDaniels. What could it be? Well, Raider Izzy will tell you right now. Check it out.
What up, Q? Raider Izzy. Wanted to just throw my opinion out there on something. With Antonio Pierce, and I know I mentioned this in a call a couple weeks ago. I don't remember. I don't think it got played, but I just wanted to get your opinion on something. You know, with Antonio Pierce, I'm one. I love the dude. I absolutely love him. I think he's done a phenomenal job from a lot of different perspectives. I love the holding players accountable and what he did with Teamer and Marcus Peters. Great move. I love that the players love him. I love that he's getting the most out of these guys, and I love that he's the swag that he brings and just the hardworking style. Like the culture just seems like it's so much better. I really like that, and I know obviously the topic of conversation is the Raiders' next head coach and stuff like that, and I get it. It's going to happen when you have an interim coach, and I know he's going to play this thing out. And I wish him nothing but the best, but when Vinny put out there today about David Shaw, I just kind of wanted to throw something out there. One thing I don't like so far about Pierce, and I get it, he's a rookie head coach. We have a rookie offensive coordinator. We have a rookie quarterback right now. I totally understand that. I don't like the conservativeness. I'm tired of this. We had it with McDaniels. Gruden was the king of conservative. Whatever direction we go, and I hope it's Pierce, I really do. I just want a team that is going to go for the jugular. I hated the way they handled the end of the first half in Miami. I hated the way they handled that fourth and short in the Chiefs, like in the red zone essentially. I hated the way they handled that. Go for the jugular. Go for the win. Go for it. I don't feel like we have had, aside from a few times with Del Rio, I don't feel like we have had a coach that is really aggressive, possibly in my lifetime, and I'm 37 years old. I don't think we have. That's just what I want. So David Shaw, no. Please, no. God, no. But if it's Pierce, great. I hope it is. And I know we have a lot of time still. But, man, I want an aggressive guy. I want an aggressive team. I want someone that's going to go out there and try to kill the opponent. That's all I'm asking for. I'm tired of this conservative stuff, man. It's so frustrating. But give me your opinion on that overall, dude. But I love the show as always, bro. Everything you do, really appreciate it. Later.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate you. And yeah, man, I agree with some of the decisions that Coach Pierce has made. They've been very questionable. He embraces that. He understands that. He said it when he was introduced that it's not going to be perfect. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to learn from it, right? And the one thing he said to us on Monday was the fact that when it's all said and done, he said he knew that his time was ticking. He's got to get it right, or else he'll have more than the bye week to get rest. He'll have plenty of time. But he said no matter what happens, whenever this ride is over, AP is going to be a better AP than he is today. And so that's the good thing, that he's open. He's willing to learn. He's hungry to learn. I like that about him, and I think that that's okay. Right? I know it's the NFL. I know it's a head coaching job, and I know you want everything to be perfect. And when I say you, I mean everybody. You want everything to be right immediately. But we all have to remember this is a first-time head coach. He's got 4 games under his belt, and he's learning. I almost am like, hey, you know what? If he can learn that position and really learn the ins and outs, and what I mean by that is the game time decisions, the in-game decisions, the when to go for it on 4th down, when not to go for it, when to kick a field goal, when not to kick a field goal. If he can get comfortable in that role and have a really strong staff around him, I honestly don't think I'd have any problem with him getting the job full-time. I really don't, because I love the fact that the team and the players are ready to run through walls for him, and I think that that's a big deal. I really do. The conservative nature, similar to what you saw from Gruden and McDaniels, I get it. But if you get a really good play caller, really good offensive mind around him, things could be, really a lot different and really be good for the Silver and Black, not only for the short term, but for the long term, because AP is a young dude. You get a nice young staff, right? And like I said, a really sharp offensive mind guy. I think that the Raiders could do some things. So, again, part of the 5 games that they have left, we'll see. But I totally understand your concerns, and they're very, very valid. Really good to hear from you, my man. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from G-Thang in Redondo Beach, California. Hey, Q, it's G-Thang in Redondo. I respect your opinion, but want to defend AP on the field goal decision. Carlson had made 45 straight inside of 40 yards. That's as automatic as it gets. If he makes it, we're up 3 at halftime. After KC scores, we kick another field goal, and it's a 1-point game going to the 4th quarter. When KC scores again, it's still a 1-score game. Missing that easy kick changed the whole game. It forced us to go for it deep in our own territory when we would have punted. KC came into the game averaging less than 23 points, and our defense has been better than years past. The decision to kick was a solid strategy for a close game. Unfortunately, Carlson just missed it. That's G-Thang in Redondo Beach, California. That's fine. I said that I'm not second-guessing them. I just don't like the decision. And that's cool. You can think it was a good decision or not. I don't have any problem with that. But when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs and you're beating the Kansas City Chiefs, you want to step on their neck, right? That's the thing about it. Field goals don't step on their neck. Field goals leave the door open, and missing field goals is even worse. You're absolutely right about Carlson. I said that on Monday following the game. Carlson is automatic. There's a reason I call him Cash Money Carlson. There's a reason why many call him Cash Money Carlson. He's automatic. But 3 points is 3 points, right? Think about if they had gone for it on 4th and 1, and I know ifs and buts and all that other good stuff. I know how the saying goes. They had gone for it on 4th and 1, picked it up, and say they punched it in the end zone. Now they're up 14-0. They stop the Chiefs. They get the ball back. Jacobs runs that 63-yarder to the house for a touchdown. Now they're at 21-0. Now the Chiefs are starting to sweat a little bit. Starting to sweat. They might get a little bit of doubt in them, especially because, like you mentioned, they're averaging less than 23 points. Now all of a sudden they're starting to question themselves, and the energy from the Raiders is more. Because remember, that missed field goal took a little bit out of them as well. So, yeah, you're right. That missed field goal hurt in a major way for multiple reasons. I just think if you're playing a team like the Chiefs, you've got to not look at the analytics and not, say, well, this, that, and the other. You can't worry about how much points they're averaging. They score a lot against you consistently. So you want to go ahead and step on their neck. Remember last season you were up 17-0 and found a way to lose. So that 14-0 lead that they had, you had to know that wasn't a solid 14-0 lead. That's all I'm saying. I totally get it. I absolutely get where you're coming from, and I know, the math about it and all that good stuff, and that it could be a good play. I just think for me and my money, I would have much rather him go for it on 4th and 1, try to punch it into the end zone, and try to keep the foot on the gas against a team like that. You're playing a team like the Giants, kick the field goal. Playing a team like the Jets, kick the field goal, right? They're not very good. Kansas City has owned you, and they score a lot against you. And I know the defense is really good this year, but still, you can't leave that little sliver of hope there for KC. That's where I'm coming from. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion, and I'm okay and comfortable with that. But thank you so much for your text. I definitely appreciate you. We'll close out with a call from Raider Big C in L.A. He's calling to talk about the Raiders' final 5 games and the fact he thinks the Raiders can go on a run. He explains why. Here he is, Raider Big C in L.A.
Thank you. It's Raider Big C from L.A. Been wanting to get some stuff off my chest, and I feel like this Raiders team could possibly make a run. I feel like it could happen. I was there for that Jets game. Yeah, we lost, two games in a row to the Dolphins and the Chiefs, but that's the cream of the crop. That's the top of the AFC. And for us to be at least in it with the Dolphins and with the Chiefs, we were up. Now, I know we lost majorly, but at least we try to keep ourselves at the door. And when I was there for the Jets game, I noticed a different atmosphere, and I noticed a difference in the team. I saw it. The difference you see on TV when you see it in person, of course, but I saw the difference. And I don't know if you can say that this one can make a run. Look at the next games. Vikings, Chargers, Chiefs, Colts, Broncos. 3 of those games are at home. Vikings, they literally just scored 1 touchdown against the Bears. Chargers, they're self-imploding. They're ready to tank. Chiefs, I think we can get them on Christmas Day because they're going to be either wrapping it up or resting their people. The Colts, it's a toss-up. And the Broncos, I feel like we can beat the Broncos. So I feel like they can make a run. That's how I see. And plus, on a side note, I'll be there this Sunday against the Rams and the Browns. There's a bye week. I need my football fix, so I'm going to be saying lose Browns because we need the Browns, the Colts. We need a lot of people to lose, and I think it'll start off. But more importantly, we got to take care of business, and the Raiders will go on a run 5 in a row to make the playoffs and repeat 2021. Raiders!
There he is, a very positive Raider Big C. And look, I doubted the Raiders in 2021 that they were going to go on a run and find a way to get into the playoffs because they hadn't proven it. I told anybody who was anybody, I said it on the radio, like, what makes me think they're going to go win 4 straight or 5 straight or whatever the case may be because they haven't done it all season long. I doubted them then. They found a way to pull it off. I got to give them a lot of credit for that. I don't want to take anything from them. Now, with that being said, they have 5 games left, and they haven't scored over 20 points more than one time offensively this year. So, again, I'm going to doubt them that they can get it done because the offense is struggling. Now, if they were scoring 24 to 28 points and their defense is playing the way they're playing, sure, they can go on a run. Matter of fact, if they were scoring 24 to 28 points, they'd already have gone on a run. They would have won multiple games already if their offense could score. But the $100 million question is, why in the hell can their offense not score? That has been what's going on all season long, and it's just been a trouble. So, again, I mean, you got the Vikings, Chargers, Chiefs, Colts, Broncos. Are those all winnable games? Sure. Absolutely. I think the Chiefs on Christmas Day in KC is going to be tough. I really do. That's why I thought that they had to win last week against Kansas City at the house. They didn't get it done. Vikings, definitely a very winnable game. Chargers, definitely a very winnable game. Colts, Gardner Minshew, sure, very winnable. And the Broncos, the Raiders are dominating, even though the Broncos are playing really well right now. But every team that I said sure is a winnable game, those teams are looking at the Raiders and saying, yep, that's a winnable game too. They believe the same thing, right? So they don't think that the Raiders are any better than them at all. They don't look at it like, man, that's a tough game coming up. They're like, oh, it's the Raiders, we'll get right. And unfortunately for the Raiders, more times than not this year, they have been that get-right team. That's unfortunate. I do appreciate the optimism. I hope that I'm wrong. Hell, I hope they go 5-0. That'd be fantastic. If they go 3-2 down the stretch, that would be fantastic as far as I'm concerned, right? I mean, it's just it's going to be tough. They're still with the rookie quarterback, still with the interim head coach, still with the interim offensive coordinator and interim play caller and Bo Hardigree. It's a whole lot of new, so it's very difficult to go on that kind of a run with that kind of new. But there's a reason why they go play the games, right? No doubt about it. So thanks so much for that, Raider Big C. I appreciate you. Got a text from Assassin's Ghost we'll get to on Monday's show. Got a lot of feedback, as a matter of fact, we'll get to on Monday's show. Do want to hear from you. What are you looking for? What do you want to see from the Raiders the final 5 games, right? Of course, we all want to see wins, but what is the game inside the game? Is there something in particular you're looking for? We'd love to hear from you at 707-654-4693. Enjoy your weekend. It's going to be strange without Raider football, but it is what it is. We'll be back on Monday. We'll be talking about Week 14. We'll start looking ahead to the Minnesota Vikings and see what the Raiders can do against them, led by Josh Dobbs. Looks like Justin Jefferson is going to be returning for that, so that'll be a challenge for the Raiders defense, but that'll be for Monday. For now, enjoy your weekend. Have a fantastic weekend, as a matter of fact. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.